Hey folks, we've been quite busy on the homestead here lately, doing lots of stuff, lots of preservation, lots of preparation stuff. A lot going on this time of year. We got a beautiful morning, so we're going to do more of it. Stick around. Well, the garden is going full swing, and we've been harvesting quite a bit. We've been putting away quite a bit, and we're going to go out first thing this morning. We need to harvest some more broccoli. We got a whole bunch ready to go. Good morning, Cat. Looks like we're going to have some more broccoli for supper tonight. Garden's doing pretty awesome. We've been harvesting a lot. Can't wait for them tomatoes to come on. We already got a couple orange ones showing on our slicer tomatoes. Got some watermelons out here, cantaloupe. We've already picked a few cucumbers off our cucumber vine. We've got some snow peas. We've got some peppers growing. Everything's doing really well. Still need to pull the old cabbage plants out over there, but no hurry for that. But we got to get after this broccoli. Look at this Thai basil here flowering out beautiful. But look at all this broccoli we got to pick. Look at this giant head here. And all these other plants are full of our little side shoot broccoli. Got another giant head in here. Well, folks, look at this gigantic haul of cauliflower. This is a ginormous count colander, so that's quite a bit. Now, unbeknownst to me, cauliflower does the same thing. It gives side shoots. We've got side shoots coming on our cauliflower, and I guess it makes sense because it's kind of in the same family as the broccoli, so we got some cauliflower to pick as well. Alrighty, look at this haul of cauliflower and broccoli we got. You'll notice that some of the cauliflower is a little more yellow than the others, like this one's super bright white. Well, the more sunlight they get, the less white they are. This one was hidden way down on the bottom, like some of these other ones, but some of them that got a little sunlight are a little more yellow, but that does not affect the flavor at all. And this one here is almost too ripe, but still edible. So we don't have a lot of room in the freezer. I know that's probably the best way to preserve this stuff. So we'll do what we can, put it in the freezer when we get inside. Let's go look around the garden, see what else is ready. We've got a few snow peas or snap peas, sugar peas, whatever you want to call them, ready. And we need to pick up some of this and get it back on the trellis. I think the wind blew some of it down the other day, so it'll continue to climb. We've got a mess of snow peas that we can use for supper in our stir fry that we're going to do with our broccoli. I'm going to harvest some cilantro that I'm going to use for lunch in a steak wrap that I'm going to make. The first cantaloupes are starting to show up here in our vine. There's probably quite a few more that we don't see, but still flowering. One cantaloupe vine will put out like 30 cantaloupes. Another one way out here. You can see down in there probably. And then our watermelons have two big watermelons. These are icebox type watermelons. They'll stay small and round like that. But they're nowhere near ready to pick yet. And then our Crenshaw melons, we've got 4 or 5 of them that we've seen in here, in our vines here. We've got some slicer tomatoes turning orange. We're excited about that. Can't wait to get our first tomato. Got some of our plum tomatoes we see are starting to set on our San Marzanos. And our onions are bulbing up. So we can probably stop buying onions because at this point we can start using onions from the garden once they start getting a pretty good sized bulb like that. I need to do a little bit more side pruning on our tomatoes. So I'll get that done real quick, and I'll weave anything I can weave. Okay, we got our side pruning done on the tomatoes. It may seem excessive or counterproductive to y'all, but you can side prune these all summer long. Doesn't hurt them. Keeps them growing upright. They're not on the ground getting diseases when it rains. Got a couple more jalapenos we're going to add to our basket that we can use in some dishes the next couple days. It appears we've got some mistaken identity going on. This is supposed to be our celery bed, but we've got a cilantro plant in here because they look really, really close to each other when they're young. And then down in our cilantro bed, we have one celery plant. Pretty crazy. Found another cucumber. These things are almost like zucchini. You almost got to check these plants daily. All right, it looks like that's about all we can harvest out of the garden right now. There are some rainbow bell peppers that we could harvest and eat, but I'm going to leave those on the vine because they'll last a little bit longer on the vine than they will if we were to pick them right now and store them. So I'd rather come out and get them as needed. So we just need to wash these vegetables we've already picked. Came over to turn the hydrant on. Our spearmint is doing really well here by the hydrant where the faucet's leaking here when it's on. We always planted mint when I was younger near a leaky faucet. It does really well. Now, if you've never had it, mint is a really good addition to like beef stew, or if you do a roast or something like that with the juice. Throw some mint on your plate and pour the juice over that mint, or put it on top of your roast as you pour it on there. It's a fantastic combination. Okay, we're back inside. We're going to deal with our cauliflower first, but before we start doing our second cleaning on this and getting ready to preserve it and cutting it up, I think we're going to pickle the cauliflower because we don't have a lot of room in the freezer, like I said. We'll use some of this broccoli up fresh, but we've got room to freeze a little bit of it. But there's some prep work involved. Got our cauliflower all cleaned up, and make sure you check pretty good when you're cleaning your cauliflower. Stay over here by the faucet and kind of wash it as you go. A lot of creepy crawlies like to hide out underneath that cauliflower. We're filling our little canning vessel that we're going to use with hot water so it doesn't take too long to boil. I won't have very many jars, so I'm just using my stock pot with a grate in the bottom for our water bath. So we're going to continue filling that up. Okay, I sterilized 8 jars, but I only needed 5. So on top of our cauliflower that we've packed into our sterilized jar, I'm going to add 2 pieces of jalapeno. So we got a little spice, but not too much. It should still be fine for Kelly. She doesn't like a lot of spice. Got a couple bigger pieces in that one. So now we're going to put some whole seeds in here. We'll tell you what they are. Now our first seed that we're adding is a 1/4 teaspoon of whole cumin seed in each pint jar. If you use quart, you'd need 1/2 teaspoon. Put one in each jar. We wait until the jars are full so we know how much to use. So there we go. Next addition is a 1/2 teaspoon of whole coriander seed. If you didn't know, coriander seed grows cilantro. This is the seed of the cilantro plant. Some people will actually call cilantro coriander. So if you were to plant this out in the garden, it would probably grow you some cilantro. So the next thing we need to start is our brine. We've got 3 cups of white vinegar, at least 5% vinegar, regular pickling vinegar. You can find it in your canning aisle. And 3 cups of really good clean water. And then to that we added 3 tablespoons of good clean pickling salt or kosher salt. And we stir that up, and we're going to bring that to a boil. A good way to figure out how much brine you need, and you can scale up or scale down this recipe, it takes a little over a cup to fill up a pint jar, I have found, once you have your contents in there. So we have 5-pint jars, and we've got 6 cups of liquid over here, so we should be just about right. If for some reason we need to top it up just a little bit, I would probably add just a little bit of vinegar to bring it up to about a 1/4 inch headspace is what we want. So we've got our 5 lids also. Put them in a colander. We're going to put them in our water bath to sterilize, and then we'll just use tongs to bring those out when we're ready. And then we've got our little magnet thing here that we'll use to pick up our lids. And then when we fill these up, we'll put the lids on, cap them off, put them back here in the water. You want at least an inch of space over the top of the jars, which we should get at this level no problem. Now, if you've got a lot of room in your boiling water bath that you use, put some full empty jars in there, and that will take up the space so that your jars aren't rattling around a lot. Now, I love using these wherever pots because they have the pour spout on them, and I can use the pour spout to put the brine in the jars instead of having to use a whole nother instrument, a ladle or whatever. These work fantastic. Now, most of the time when you're processing vegetables, you need to parboil them or blanch them in water. But because we're using heat to process these, we don't need to do that. We can pack them raw into the jars because we're pouring boiling brine over those, and then they're going to process another 10 minutes inside of our canner, so we can avoid the blanching. Okay, our brine is boiling and so is our water bath. So we're going to remove our lids from our water bath. We'll place them over here out of the way. So now we're going to get our brine and pour over our cauliflower. So what I'm going to do is we start with about a 1/4 cup of the brine in each jar, because it's been a while since these jars were sterilized and they've cooled off. So by adding just a little bit of our brine in the jar, it's going to rewarm that jar a little bit. So now we can go back to this original one now that it's kind of warmed up, and we'll slowly put our brine in here. Fill the jars up. I'm hoping we have enough to do all these jars. This cauliflower is packed a little looser than what we normally put in a jar. We're going to be close. I think we're going to have enough. Boy, it's close. We're real close. We're above the cauliflower, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little splash of vinegar in each one of these. Take a little bit of our white vinegar and bring it just up to where we want it. And this little bit of vinegar is not going to cool down the mix enough to worry about. So now we're going to take our clean rag, we're going to dip it in our boiling water over here, and then we're going to wipe the tops of all of our jars. Make sure they're good and clean. Make sure there's no debris on the top. And then we can start placing our lids. I'm not touching the underside of the lid, just the top. If you're pressure canning, you don't need to go crazy with the sterilization like we are here, because it cooks a good long time when you're pressure canning. So we'll get our lids started, and then once we get them started, we'll come back through and snug them down before they go in the water bath. I'm going to use my towel that I got over here. Pick up the jar, snug it up. You just want it snug, you don't want to over tighten. Just so the lid makes good contact with the jar. And now we are ready to put them in our hot water bath. Start out with one in the middle there, and then we'll put the other ones around the outside. I'm thinking when these jars get in here, it's going to bring our water up to where we need it. Yep, we're well above our jars. So I'm going to put one more jar in here just to take up space. Alright, we got an empty jar over there full of water. Brought our water level up even more. So we're going to put the lid on this so it comes back to temp fairly quickly. And then once it starts boiling, we're going to go 10 minutes. Okay, our water bath is boiling. We got our timer set. Let me show you something that we just started doing recently. Our tap water comes out of the tap at 160 degrees because I got my hot water heater turned up all the way. And I do that because when you use hot water like in the shower or whatever, you don't have to use as much. You can use more cold water than hot, and your hot water lasts longer. So being our water is 160 degrees, what we're going to start doing is we take up a hint that we found on the internet, just popped up. When you store your old canning jars down in the root cellar, why store them empty? Put water in them, sterilize, and close them up, and then you have water for emergency purposes if you ever have the need. So what we're going to start doing whenever the jars come out of the dishwasher and everything's nice and sterilized, we'll fill them full of water and then dump a little bit out, about 1/4 inch head space, and then put on your used lid, because you don't need a brand new lid for this. Snug it up, and then we'll turn it upside down. Now let the water overflow for a little bit so it brings everything up to temp, sterilizes everything on top of that jar, and then dump your little bit out. The reason you want to dump it out because the jar requires an air gap in there to suck down the seal. If you don't have any air, water doesn't compress, so it won't seal. But with that little bit of air gap, as it cools, everything shrinks down, pulls that lid in, and that's kind of the way the canning process works, and that's how your jars seal. Now the reason we turn our jars upside down, because we're not boiling them in a water bath, it also disinfects or sterilizes the top of the jar, that lid and everything that we put on there with that 160 degree water. A lot of people used to can this way back in the day. I'm not recommending that you do that because everybody will go crazy saying you can't, but a lot of people would put their hot stuff in the jar, seal it with the lid and the ring, and then turn it over and didn't water bath it at all. But that's the old days. So after a while, using our canning jar stuff in the root cellar, we keep doing this, we'll have a fantastic supply of water down there. I'm going to build a new shelf to hold all this. I'll make it real sturdy because it's going to be a lot of weight. So all of our empty canning jars will no longer be empty. They'll be full of water, ready for emergency use. When we're ready to can, we just pick as many jars as we need. We dump out what we need, refill it with canned stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. I always got a pretty good supply of canning jars down there, so we'll have gallons of emergency water. Now, because you're not pressure canning or anything like that, they don't even have to be canning jars. You could use mayonnaise jars, any glass jar from the store that's got a seal on it, run it through your dishwasher, clean it up, fill it full of the hot water, boil the water if you have to, and you got storage of water. All right, 10 minutes is up. We pulled our jars out of the water bath. We put them kind of close proximity to each other so they can kind of share each other's warmth, because you don't want those to be sitting in a real cold environment. You want them to cool down slowly. And don't put them on a cold countertop. Put them on a dish rag so they don't get that cold shock. So we're going to keep our water hot because we're going to use this hot water in processing the broccoli. Okay, we removed from our batch the stuff that we're going to eat fresh. We're going to use one of these tonight and then the other one within the next probably 4 or 5 days. They'll be fine. Do the little trick, putting the paper towel in the bottom. When you put paper towel in the bag, it'll soak up any excess moisture that's in the bag and it'll last a lot longer. So we're going to get back to the rest of our batch here and continue on. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a real good wash. We're not going to cut it into florets yet because this will be a lot easier to blanch in the bigger pieces. If you got to deal with a bunch of little small pieces, it's a lot more labor intensive. And then after we blanch it and then shock it back cold again to stop the cooking, then we'll cut it up into our final size pieces. Okay, our hot water pot is still boiling. We've got an ice water bath ready to go. We're going to start blanching our broccoli. All right, we're going to add some of our broccoli to the pot. I want to make sure we don't overload the pot. I want to make sure all of it can get under that water. And this is going to kill the enzymes in the broccoli and also keep it a beautiful bright green color. So 3 minutes in the blanching water. Okay, our 3-minute blanch is done. We've got it in our cold water, shocking it back again to stop the cooking. And just like we did in the boiling water, we make sure everything's under the surface. So we're going to let our water come back to a boil, and then we're going to pull this out. Once it's good and cool, we'll add more ice cubes and we'll do the next batch. I think we can get this done in 2 batches. After we pull it out of the ice water bath, we put it on a wire rack. We want this to dry out before we throw it in the freezer. Okay, our second batch is done. We're going to let this dry out a little bit. We'll cut it into florets, and then we'll put it on a piece of parchment and on a sheet pan. We'll put it in the freezer. We'll flash freeze it for about an hour, and then we'll bring it out and we'll vacuum seal it. Now, there's another good reason to blanch your vegetables. See, there's a couple little cabbage worms in there. That hot water will dispatch them and they'll come floating out. But there still may be 1 or 2 in there, but we'll take a good look as we're cutting them up. And it may gross you guys out, but that's part of organic gardening. You're going to have some pests. Now, in the time it took to process our broccoli, all of our cauliflower is sealed. All of our emergency water has sealed because it cooled down and sucked that lid in there. Well, those guinea babies are putting on a lot of miles keeping up with Mom. She pretty much roams the whole place. They stay right with her. Ruby wants to go play with them, but I don't think they want to play with Ruby. She doesn't play nice. Do you, Rubes? Ruby, you don't play nice, do you? Okay, all trimmed up, ready for the freezer. Anything less than ideal, we put in the chicken bucket for the chickens. Believe it or not, we found a spot. Well, while we're waiting for that to freeze, I'll show you some other stuff we've been up to. And we got some raw beeswax from our local bee guy. And it comes in the raw form. You can see it's real dirty. It's got propolis and everything in it. It's just raw from right out of the scraping of the hive. So what you do to clean that up is you get a pan. You put water in the pan, about ½ inch, ¼ inch, whatever. You get a rack, like a cooling rack, put on the pan. Put paper towel over the rack. And then you put your raw piece of beeswax on the paper towel. You put your oven at 200 degrees. Make sure you don't put too much wax because you don't want to overflow in your oven. You put your raw piece of beeswax right here in the middle of the paper towel, and at 200 degrees the beeswax will melt and the paper towel acts as a filter. The melted beeswax goes into the pan below, and because there's water in the pan, wax floats on water so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And when you're all done, you pull it out, it cools, it separates from the side of the pan because anything that gets cold shrinks. And then you have some beautiful, clean beeswax. We've already dumped the water out of this pan. So, super cool. You can make candles with that. You can refine it even more. You can break it up and run it through again, and it'll even get a little clearer than that. But that'll work just fine. The smell is amazing when you're melting it. The smell of melting beeswax smells really good. Now, Kelly does different things with the beeswax. We make lip balm with it. And maybe we'll show you that because we're all out of what I made out in California. We'll make some more for you. The beeswax candles burn super clean. There's nothing toxic in it. And all you got to do is make a beeswax candle. Get a little like jelly jar, a little jelly jar mason jar. And get you the wick material. It's super cheap if you go get it. And you put your wick in there, pour your wax in there, and you got you a candle. If you remember when we first canned our pickled cauliflower, it was floating up off the bottom. As it absorbs the brine in the jar, it gets heavier and sinks down to the bottom. So now it's all down where it's supposed to be and under the level of the brine in the jar. All right, it's been about an hour and a half. Our broccoli's frozen pretty good. So we're going to bag it into quart bags and we'll vacuum seal it. All right, friends, we've got 4 meals worth of our good broccoli out of the garden. All we got to do is take this bag, throw it in the microwave for about 5 minutes, and it's ready to go. Now, if you don't vacuum seal because you think it's kind of cost prohibitive buying the bags, check out this company, Out of Air. They have bags that are half and sometimes a third of the price of other bags if you're getting like LEM or Food Saver bags. These are a lot less expensive and they're actually heavier bags. So pretty crazy. But check them out. Very nice price on those. So we're going to get these back down to the freezer. We've got 2 more meals down there, including tonight's supper. We're going to make broccoli and shrimp for dinner. If you're interested in that, check out our broccoli and beef video a couple videos back. And we're just substituting shrimp. That's all we're doing. Throwing in some water chestnuts and some of those snow peas from the garden. Should be yummy. Well, Kelly just got home, so we're going to have supper. She informed me that the freeze dryer stuff won't be done until like tomorrow. So we'll show you that on the next video. Here's our shrimp and broccoli. It's going to be amazing. So that's going to be a wrap for today. Hope you enjoyed hanging out with me, getting all of our broccoli and cauliflower out of the garden and preserving it. So give this stuff a try. I think you're going to enjoy it. Till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us at the farm.